Good evening, everyone. We're glad to welcome you to the lecture from the Terracan Valley. We ask you to be active listeners and also to greet our today's speaker, Tim Markin. Tim, your word.
Yes, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you for joining me today. My name is Tim. I started out as a game developer, and today I work as a project manager and Scrum Master in the Web3 gaming space. So I'm excited to talk about merging blockchain technology with real player experience today on our session. And I'll share how we can integrate blockchain, things like NFT and tokens, into the game without ruining the fun. So here is my Telegram. If you want, you can reach me out later. And also, I will answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. However, you can write your questions meanwhile. So here's what we're going to cover in the next 50 minutes. We'll start with some Web3 game design principles, basically how to design games that properly leverage the blockchain. Then we'll discuss choosing the right blockchain and integrating smart contracts. This is about like picking a chain, for example, Ton, Polygon, etc., and how the game talks to the blockchain. Next is tokenomics. So this is basically about designing the game economy, and we'll also talk about user experience and gamification in Web3 games. Um, then I'll touch about the team management, how we adopt the Scrum to work with Web3 games. Then I have three case studies that I worked at, and I'm gonna go through them and discuss the good things we did and bad things we did, what could be done better. And final is Q&A. We'll spend about 10 minutes answering some of your questions. So let's dive into it. The Web3 game gap, let me start by addressing that this is a fancy way of saying there is often a disconnect between blockchain and fun gameplay. So a common failure we see in developers just slapping tokens or NFT onto a game that isn't fun to begin with. And if the core game is boring, adding a token won't save it. Players might show up briefly, hoping to make a profit, but they won't stick around for a long time. I can't stress this enough. So, yeah, players should come for the gameplay, not for speculation or financial rewards. We saw this with some early play-to-earn games. They attracted huge crowds during the crypto hype, but when the earning potential dropped, um, so did the participants. Yeah, so the goal is for us as game designers and product managers is to make the blockchain layer invisible, while the value it provides is felt by the players. So what does it mean? It means the player is enjoying a game and benefiting from features like true ownership or earn rewards without being forced to think about wallets, gas fees, or complicated crypto stuff. The blockchain tech should be under the hood, enhancing the experience, but not acting as a barrier. In essence, if we do it right, players might not even realize that the game is on a blockchain. They'll just notice that a game offers by itself something new and valuable to them. So the gap we need to bridge is between exciting new tech and the old requirements of making a fun game. Throughout this talk, I'll emphasize a lot about this. So next is when to use the blockchain. Now that we have acknowledged that we shouldn't use blockchain as a gimmick, when should we use it in a game? In other words, what game elements actually benefit from being on chain? So a good rule of thumb is mm, to use blockchain for assets and rewards that player will own or trade. For example, NFTs work well with characters, cosmetics, skins, and special items. So if you have a unique sword or rare skin, making it an NFT can give the player true ownership. They could sell it or trade it outside the game or keep it as collectible. It adds a sense of performance and player ownership that traditional games don't have. Well, some games they do have it, but it's not a true ownership. It's all server based. For example, recently, oh, sorry, I jumped. Like maybe you heard about recent news when the Steam enabled the Counter-Strike enabled knife merges and the price and markets dropped. And this will not be the case with blockchain because everybody can see the smart contract and see what can be done, what can't be done. So next is tokens. These are fungible tokens. They are useful for things like governance, reward currency, or marketplace payments. For instance, you might have a token that players earn as a reward for completing a mission, like a gold coin, but on blockchain, or a governance token that gives players voting rights on game updates. So the player, they feel they participate in a game, like they create something by voting. And tokens also facilitate player-driven marketplaces, so where players can buy and sell items with a token instead of real money. Um, this will obviously push the token value and benefit the project in the long term. Yeah, so next, on the flip side, avoid putting like core gameplay logic on chain. So don't make every jump or enemy spawn or move on chain because that would be terribly expensive and slow. There are some fully on-chain games, but they're for like experimental purposes, not for real product that's in high demand. And also, you should avoid over complexity early on. If you're just starting your game, you probably don't need 4 tokens and 10 different type of NFT collections. It's better to start simple with a small MVP that probably uses one kind of NFT or even none at all, and you add the blockchain elements gradually. And yeah, we'll talk more about it in decentralization slide. So the main idea is to use blockchain where it genuinely adds value, like ownership, player trust, new economic models, and not use it where it adds friction or unnecessary complexity. Mm, yeah, like also mm, there will be a case study. I'll explain you more about over complexity and on-chain unnecessary game logic later in the slides. Now let's talk about why we even bother with Web3 in games. After all, implementing blockchain is complicated and it's not very fast. So one big reason is player ownership and transparency. In Web3 games, players can truly own their stuff. If I earn or buy a cool item in a Web3 game, it's mine. I can sell it, I can trade it, or maybe use it in another game if it's transferable, and nobody has uh, effect to like take it from me or to change some server rules. Um, yeah, so this is about transparency. Game economies on blockchain are more transparent and potentially fair. Players can see how many of certain item exist as well. or how token rewards are distributed, because it's all on chain, can be studied by the players or anybody else. Yeah, so this builds a lot of trust. Yeah, and for example, if game only offers 100 NFTs, everybody can go on chain and see the smart contract and verify. And another motivation is new monetization models and deeper engagement. Web3 lets us explore models like play to earn, where players can earn real value by playing, or community crowdfunding, selling NFTs to support development, for example, or revenue sharing with players. This can increase engagement. Players who have a stake in the game uh, are likely to be more involved and invested in the game's success. Also makes the players more long-term players, short-term increases retention. Also, it's a shift from the old model of games where the company owns everything and players just spend to a more participatory economy. In Web3 games, players can be stakeholders. They might influence development via governance votes, create content, or take part in open marketplace. And we're basically moving from centralized games economies to participatory player-driven economies. However, and this is also crucial, these benefits only matter if the game is fun. Because a common mistake, which I touched on earlier, uh, is adding token to a boring game and thinking it will succeed. The reason for using Web3 should never be because marketing wants a crypto buzz or because we can sell NFTs quick. It should be because this feature improves the player experience or the community. So Web3 for Web3's sake is it doesn't really work, or it only works short term. Um, so in summary, we use Web3 in games to empower players through true ownership, transparency, and new ways to engage, not to replace good game design. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Uh, it's about choosing the right blockchain. And let's say we decided to use blockchain for the right reasons. The next question is, which blockchain do we choose? And this choice can deeply affect the player experience and development process. There are many networks out there, but I'll mention a few and what they're good for. So first one, most of the projects I worked at, they use Ton. This is Telegram native blockchain. I think most of you are familiar with it. It's super fast. It has low fees, which is great for games because you might be doing lots of small transactions, and you want those to be cheap and quick. Ton being Telegram native means it integrates well with Telegram apps and bots. If your audience is on Telegram or you want an easy onboarding with Messenger app, then Ton is a strong choice. Next one is Polygon. It's EVM compatible chain, meaning it's compatible with Ethereum smart contracts, but it's more scalable than Ethereum and it has lower fees on the mainnet. It has also a large ecosystem and user base. And the benefit of Polygon is that it's connected to the whole Ethereum world. So you can tap into existing wallets, MetaMask, and others tools, and you can bridge assets with Ethereum. And many Web3 games, they pick Polygon for those reasons. The next one is Solana. It's known for its high transaction per second and quick finality, making it technically capable of handling a lot of in-game actions on chain. It has some centralization risks. It's more centralized than Ethereum or Bitcoin, and it has had few outages in the past as well. But that doesn't necessarily rule it out. It's just more about the trade-offs. You compare different chains, and then you choose the one that suits you better. Also, just gonna mention three other chains, and Monad is a new chain. You can go explore about it. It looks promising. Yeah, but I won't go into much detail because we have limited time. And the key here, as I mentioned, is choose based on your game's UX needs, cost constraints, dev team familiarity, and even availability of grants on the ecosystem. You can search for grants that will give you marketing benefits or even money. Mm, So if your game needs lots of microtransactions, pick a chain with negligible fees. If your team is experienced in Solidity and EVM chain, then Polygon or Arbitrum is a good choice. It will speed up your development. Also consider where your potential players already are. For example, many gaming projects go with Polygon or Immutable to attract existing crypto gamers, whereas something like Ton might give you access to the large Telegram user base, but not all of this user base is necessarily players. Mm, just keep that in mind. And sometimes there are also incubators that are run by the blockchains. Can explore that. Yeah, in short, there is no one size fits all blockchain. It's a product decision. You weigh the user experience, so the speed, the ease of use, the costs, transaction fees, maybe some hosting nodes, integration costs, the tools available, and the community. And you just choose the one that best aligns with your game's needs. And remember, migrating later can be painful, so it's worth doing homework upfront. Although the omni-chain bridging is also an option, and I know some projects that do it. Okay, next we have tokenomics. Basically, the tokenomics is the design of your in-game economy and tokens. It's often where projects trip up. Let's talk about how to design your tokenomics. So first of all, don't launch a token before your gameplay has traction. It's super tempting to create early to raise funds or generate buzz. But if you release a token too soon, before you have a solid, fun game and community, you risk few things. One, the token might get hyped and then crash, which can kill your game's reputation before it finds its way. Yeah, here I'm talking about more long-term projects. Obviously, if you're aiming for a short-term project, that probably doesn't apply. But two, you might attract speculators instead of actual players. And I've seen projects where token was launched and pumped too high, but the game wasn't fun or even fully built. So eventually the token value synced and yeah, leaving the game in the dust. So it's better to first prove that people enjoy your game using even some off-chain mechanism or testnet tokens, and then introduce a real token when there is a real usage and demand for it. Second, it's very important to design things and use mechanisms like vesting and staking to fight inflation. A healthy game economy, it needs balance between ways players earn currency and sinks. So waste currency leaves the system. If players can earn a token infinitely without enough sinks, your token will inflate and become worthless. So plan for sinks. Maybe players spend token to craft items, enter tournaments, or unlock new content. Anything that removes tokens from circulation. Also consider vesting schedules for any token allocation to the team or early investor. Um, So they don't dump all tokens at launch. And implementing staking can help by encouraging players to lock up their tokens, perhaps in exchange for some reward or status. Staking in game context could even be gamified, like stake a token to probably train your character, your NFT character over time. Okay, and third, align incentive to reward engagement and not speculation. So yeah, this is crucial. You want players earning tokens because they are doing positive things for the game, like playing regularly, completing your tasks or your partner tasks, not because they're just clicking a button, yield and farm. If your economy rewards players simply for having money or staking huge amounts, you'll get whales gaming the system. But if it's also about reward skill, time, and community contributions, you build more loyal player base, and it will be bigger player base. Think of ways to tie token rewards to fun gameplay activities, like winning a tournament, completing difficult quests, creating maybe even some user-generated contest. So that way, people who hold your token are the ones who actually love your game, which stabilizes the economy. Mm, yeah, probably you heard about the game called Axie Infinity. They had the SLP token where players earned by grinding routine tasks, and it had no strong sinks or neither utility, and the market got flooded with tokens, and so the price went down. Yeah, so the key takeaway here is to balance. Now let's discuss how the game actually connects to the blockchain. So the smart contract integration. The architecture here is the player's wallet, um, is where um, their blockchain assets live and how they sign transactions. Then we have the smart contract, is where the game's on-chain logic is. You have to work on it. For example, an NFT contract for the game, or a token contract for the currency, or any custom other contract. And the backend is your game server or cloud service that runs player profiles, matches, other things. And obviously the game itself, mm, it's the front end. You can see it's more complicated to traditional Web2 games because they usually have only backend and the game client. Sometimes they don't even have the backend, just the game client. Here you have more technologies, so you should also take them into consideration how they work in a game. Uh, okay. Um, Also, speaking of tone, it has good feature. It's called Tone Connect. With Tone Connect, a player can easily connect their Tone wallet to a game. As a product person, you want to leverage these kinds of integration libraries to reduce friction, whether it's Tone Connect or MetaMask or a built-in web wallet. It's better to use what's already there and not create something new. Just yeah, use the tools made on the blockchain already. And lastly, security here is paramount. Audited contracts lead to a safer player experience. When your game is telling a player sign this transaction, you want to be absolutely sure that contract does exactly what it's supposed to do, no funny business. If there is a vulnerability, players could lose assets or someone might exploit the game's economy. That could be the end of your game's reputation. So integrate your smart contracts carefully, use well-known bottle-tested code or frameworks, and always get an external audit before deploying. It's worth the delay and cost. Also consider simpler contract designs because the more complex the contract, the more room for bugs and the more expensive the audit. So it's better keep everything as simple as possible and keep on-chain logic lean and push as much as possible to the off-chain backend. If that doesn't need to be decentralized, it's better to leave it on the backend. Yeah, so this hybrid approach gives you the best of both worlds, the security and openness of blockchain where it's needed, and the flexibility and speed of traditional servers where you don't need decentralization. Let's move to UX. Uh, our mantra here is Web3 should feel like Web2 for the player. In other words, the game should be an easy to use and as enjoyable as any regular game, even though it has blockchain underneath. A lot of blockchain games fail not because the idea was bad, but because the onboarding was too complicated. We can't expect a mainstream gamer to wrestle with setting up a wallet, um, safeguarding seed phrase, paying gas fees just to start playing. Um, yeah, those are huge barriers, and our job is to hide the complexity. Perhaps we create an embedded wallet for the user when they sign up, so they don't even know that they have the wallet. Uh, or we use social logins and links, and uh, we use social logins and link a wallet behind the scenes. It's also a good option. And many successful Web3 games, they allow you to play as a guest first and only ask you to deal with the blockchain when it's absolutely necessary, like when you want to withdraw an asset or pay for something. So the interface and experience should be smooth, that a player who doesn't care about Web3 could still enjoy the game and slowly discover the blockchain features over time. Now about gamification of blockchain actions. Mm, So the slide says use staking as care, minting as progress. What does it mean? It's about framing traditional Web3 actions in ways that make sense in game narrative and actually feel fun. So, for example, think of staking as a form of caring for something in your game. Perhaps you have a pet or a piece of land in the game. If the player stakes some tokens or resources into it, you can narratively present that as the player nurturing or upgrading it, and as a result, it grows or yields rewards. They're essentially locking up tokens, but to them, it feels like they're investing love, energy into their asset, something like that. Um, Similarly, minting could present progress or achievement instead of saying click here to mint NFT. You might say forge a new item or discover a new character. And under the hood, there is uh, blockchain action. It's only a byproduct and feels natural. So yeah, by aligning Web3 actions with game concepts, you not only make it less intimidating, you also make it meaningful and fun. So next is to let players enjoy the benefits of ownership and blockchain without friction. It Without friction means minimizing things like transaction confirmation pop-ups, long cryptographic addresses, or failed transactions. So some ways to do this is use layer 2 solutions or side chains to avoid high gas fees and slow confirmations. And also batch transactions. So the player isn't signing uh, just things one by one constantly, but just does it in one go. And also provide clear in-game explanation when a blockchain step is happening. So For example, you might say securing your item on the blockchain rather than something technical, like processing transaction 0x123 wallet address. And also always give the player feedback. So if something is happening on chain that takes few seconds, have a nice loading animation or explanation so they don't get confused. In summary, we designed the UX such that the blockchain presence is felt as a bonus and never as a burden. Let's go to another strategy I highly recommend is progressive decentralization. This means you gradually introduce decentralization and blockchain features to your game over time. You don't start fully decentralized on day one. And when you're building a new Web3 game, it's often wise to begin more centrally controlled or simplified, get the gameplay and product market fit right, then progressively hand over more to the blockchain or the community. So you build minimal viable product where you test the UX and core gameplay without heavy blockchain complexity. And during this phase, you might even use centralized database for items or testnet token. The point is to make sure people actually enjoy the game and that your onboarding works. It's much easier to tweak game mechanics at this stage without worrying about smart contracts, changes, or talking economics. For example, in MVP, you could simulate the economy with pretended points to see if the loop makes sense and interesting for the player. Okay, once you have core, you have a solid core. You phase into NFTs, then tokens, and then something bigger, perhaps a DAO. Um, so let's imagine you start with phase one, which is NFT for game characters or items. This gives players a taste of ownership, but doesn't overhaul the whole economy. So it's not a crucial step for you. You see how it affects the community. Are the players trading these items? Do they understand the wallet setup? You gather feedback and improve, and then you move to phase two, where you might roll out more NFT collections or a token, perhaps to reward players or something else. And this again should be done carefully. Maybe you start with a small limited distribution or a trial testnet. Eventually, if your community is big and passionate, then you can move to phase three, which is a DAO or anything else that's very big and complicated. The idea of balance innovation with deliverability is key here. If you try to innovate on every front, like gameplay, economics, technology, governance, and some law, something else, you risk delivering nothing. Um, as a project manager, I've learned you have to prioritize and sequence features. You might have a grand vision of a fully decentralized virtual world run by players with real economies and on-chain everything. That's awesome, but you need to get there step by step, and each progressive step should be tested and validated, and only then you move to the next step. Maybe your community actually isn't ready or interested in DAO governance, they don't need it. But if you float the idea and there is little enthusiasm or the initial votes are fake or trolled, then you might hold off and focus on other engagement features. Um, yeah, or perhaps your idea of a token changes once you see how players use the NFTs. Um, so this agile stepwise approach de-risks your project and also helps build trust with your players. They see you're not forcing massive changes, uh, um, overnight, but you're rather giving them features as they prove valuable. So in summary, start centralized and prove the fun, and then you can decentralize over time. Next, I'm gonna talk about how we manage the project and the team behind Web3 game. I come from Scrum background, so I naturally think in agile terms. Um, the slide suggests Scrum and Web3, which means we plan in sprints, but we remain adaptable to the unique challenges of blockchain development. In practice, building a Web3 game means you have additional uncertainties compared to a normal game. For example, smart contract development might include blockers like waiting for audit or dealing with testnet outage, or market conditions might prompt a change in priority, maybe regulatory change can affect your token. So while we still do sprint planning, daily stand-ups, and all other traditions, we keep adaptability high, essentially being ready to pivot or adjust the backlog more often than you might on a straight Web 2 project. So the Scrum framework actually helps here because you're reviewing progress in short cycles and can prioritize every sprint if needed. One important thing is aligning all different parties involved. So in Web3 game teams, you often have a mix of traditional game developers, blockchain engineers, maybe economists for tokenomics, working closely with game designers, community managers, and investors. So communication is key. Everyone should share the same product vision and understand the plan. For instance, your game designers, they might need to spend a lot of time with tokenomics specialists and blockchain developers so they can understand whether they can do some features or it's better not to do them. So yeah, as regular syncs and sprint planning meetings is essential. And also, I should mention that it's good to integrate some of your community feedback into your sprints. Some of our community members actually affected our sprints in one of the projects. Also, using some Scrum teams, they don't use retrospective, but I think it's very important for Web3 projects and very useful after a sprint or each major release. We discuss what went well, what didn't, specifically regarding the blockchain integration and blockchain delivery. For example, um, uh, for example, maybe in the last sprint, the deployment of a contract caused a delay. In a retro, we ask how can we improve it. Perhaps next time we integrate audits earlier or use staging network for faster testing. Or we might identify that our front-end and smart contract team weren't syncing enough, causing some UI glitches or something else. All right, let's go next to security. Mentioned it already the slides, but security is a huge deal in blockchain games because unlike traditional games, here assets have real world value and exploits can directly cost players money. So a few must-dos first, audit all contracts before launch. This isn't just a check the box item, it's about ensuring that the smart contracts governing your game economy have been reviewed by security professionals who can catch vulnerabilities. Because even experienced blockchain developers, they will get their code audited by independent firm or at least other developers, because it's very easy to overlook something. The way the code works in the smart contract is a bit different, and some developers fall for that. So we have had our contracts audited in most of the projects, which gave us and community a sense of trust, uh, because consider the alternative. A hacked contract could mean item duplication, theft of funds, or total collapse of your in-game economy. So the risk is existential. Also, you should work on the UX security. That is, design your user experience in a way that prevents user mistakes and protects players from scams. Mm. So gamers may not be familiar with the dangers of Web3, like signing malicious transactions or falling for phishing. So in your game UI, make things idiot-proof. For example, when a player is about to sign a transaction, you might display a clear description. You're about to send zero point 0.1 Ethereum to purchase X item. So make it hard to misunderstand. Uh, yeah, even with audits and all precautions, exploits can still happen. So it's better to make up a rollback plan. Ask yourselves, if the worst case scenario happens, what do we do? For example, if someone finds a glitch in NFT, so for example, minting infinite gold NFTs, can we pause the contract? Um, Actually, the contracts, they have pause function where admin can pause the smart contract. It might sound a little anti-decentralized, but sometimes it's crucial to make pausable or upgradable contracts so that you don't get to a deadlock where you have no way out. Also, you can create many different funds. So if one fund gets stolen, you can use other funds and it doesn't damage your economy too badly. Um, and finally, bug bounties, they build trust and augment your security. Yeah, consider launching the bug bounty program where you invite white hackers to test your game and contracts for vulnerabilities in exchange for a reward. So this turns external hackers into allies, and projects that do this show the community that they proactive about security, and often white hackers can find the issues that even audit might miss, especially once the game is live and more complex interactions are happening. Let's move next. Let's talk about marketing your Web3 game. Marketing in this space can be tricky. You're appealing to both gamers and crypto enthusiasts, which can be a bit different audience. So mm, there are some useful tools like depradar.com. You can compare your project to other projects there, see what's popular, and Radar TG is for Telegram and Ton ecosystem. I suggest you research them if you want to do the Web3 project to show you a lot of market insights. Also, the top apps, mm, they're seen by others and they're promoted this way on these resources. And crucially, always track user feedback and sentiment. So your community on Discord, Telegram, Twitter is gold. Like just listen to what they say and are they getting confused about new features or excited about something? Do they have some suggestions? And yeah, if you're just starting, then just start small. The best ways that uh, we found that work is Discord channel, the testnet rewards, and AMA sessions. AMA sessions, they really build trust. Testnet rewards, they excite players, and at the same time, you can test your blockchain. And Discord is just a little bit more active than Telegram for some reason. Okay, let's move to case studies. Now that we have covered the theory, Uh, so we looked at Beast Tycoon, just one NDA project. I'll tell about some technologies we used. That's all I'm allowed to talk about and give force. So each of these started with different goals and had to tackle the challenges we've been talking about, from design and blockchain integration to marketing and community. Also, on the slide, I've listed the cases and a key lesson: success equals player value plus correct marketing. What do I mean by that? Essentially, the project that succeeded all managed to deliver real player value. It's more about a fun game or useful product that players generally want to use. And they paired that with the right marketing approach and everything else. So here, yeah, let's start with Beast Tycoon. It's a great case study covering a classic gaming concept into Web3 enabled experience. So think of this project as a casual business simulator game. You build up a little company, kind of like idle tycoon games from the Web2 world. And what's interesting is that Beast Tycoon runs on Telegram. It's a Telegram bot, and it's powered by Ton blockchain under the hood. So the developers, including myself, we took a game that already proved the game concept that already proved on Web2 market and transferred it to Web3 with like keeping in mind the gameplay first and blockchain second. So we integrated Ton. Uh, it made sense because it's on Telegram, and here is just a screenshot from the chest items that you can purchase in the game. So the goal was to deliver a higher quality game than most of Web3 games. We build it with Unity. It creates the WebGL builds, but the drawbacks it has is slower loading time. It did cut about 30% of the players because of the loading speed. So on this project, we had a small team. Myself worked as product manager, project manager, and I even managed to write some code for the project. Now I'm going to list what we found to be an advantage and what give us boost different ways in this project. So we implemented promo codes. People were actively searching the community and communicating with each other to get the promo codes, exploring the websites, the social networks. Then partner tasks were very beneficial. We exchanged the audience with other Web3 projects. Then we had weekly giveaways and monthly giveaways, and some players they won real money and they were very excited about it. Also, like on this picture, connecting Tom Wallet with easy steps, with already made integration. Yeah, I just mention again, try not to create your own kind of integration. Just use what is already there. Then we had a roulette in our game. That's like casino-like mechanic. It's turned out to be profitable. We also collaborated with Ton for grants and promotion. Um, what didn't work really well is skins. So we spent a lot of time doing it and didn't monetize well. Then meme contests created a lot of hype, but some winners, they never played the game. They just got the money from posting memes. So I think just that's a bit unfair, and we didn't gain many new players. And chests and NFT played uh, well, and yeah. Also, like few things we didn't do right is we tried to make on-chain login to the game, and everybody complains they didn't want to pay the gas fee every day, and we basically had to remove it, just revert it back to server-based login with a little reward every day. Um, Now let's move to another project. It's called GeForce. It's a bit different scope. It's a, the investors, they're doing the whole ecosystem that combines a wish list, marketplace, and task reward center, and a game as well, tycoon style game. Mm, Again, the idea here was to deliver a higher quality game than most of Web3 games, and as well as make a task center where players who are not interested in gaming, they could hang out. So the task center was made in React, and the game was also made with Unity, which means slow loading time, but it kind of outplayed the slow loading time by loading the game in the background when the task center opens. So when player spends like 20 seconds or 30 seconds on the screen doing something in task center, the game is already loaded and it just launches straight away. So this way we could use more complex game mechanics, and at the same time the players who left the game while loading was only 7%, comparing to 30% with my previous case study. Um, what else? Yeah, also like this project, they deployed the token on the testnet and then reworked it because something wasn't comfortable enough, and they found some bugs. So yeah, I mentioned before that it's good to launch on the testnet before the mainnet. Um, let's go to next. Just one project I can talk about, but I can talk about technologies used. So as the game engine, um, they chose Cocos 2D, and it uses TypeScript to work on both the backend and front end. And in this way, developers are easier to manage and have better communication between each other. And also, the smart contract is usually written in TypeScript similar languages. So it's good in terms of technology. For me, it's number one game maker for Web3 at the moment. I might be wrong, but yeah, with my experience, it's very, very convenient. And yeah, the game loads much faster because it's basically runs as JavaScript, not as WebGL build. So the game loads much faster, and you'll have just 5 to 7% players dropping out at this stage. And how are we doing on time? Yeah, um, I think I've been talking for long enough. So um, I'll just leave you with this screen, the key takeaways from my speech, and let's go to questions if there are any. So, how do you track and analyze community sentiment in blockchain gaming communities? Um, so you can see the player activity, how much they chat. For example, you come every day and you see 1,000 new messages in the group chat. And this way, like you can day by day, you can see how many new messages appear, like how active is the community, and also if you have like X or Telegram channel, you can see the amount of views and likes day by day. And yeah, you can track it in this way. How easy it is to migrate a game from one blockchain to another if fees or audience dynamics change. Yeah, this one, we are in the process of migrating from one project from Ton onto EVM compatible chains. And I'm gonna tell you, it's been like uh, two sprints already, and it's still work in progress. So it's not very easy, and it's better to choose the right chain from the beginning. Um, uh, yeah, I can't answer your question completely. Sorry. What are the main risks of over tokenizing the gaming experience? Um, two things. First of all, if you have too many tokens, then uh, your players might get lost if you're asking about like making different tokens for different uses, and might be complicated to like get for the player to get his head around like what's going on. And the second reason is technical. If you make too many transactions with tokens, then the players there will not be happy because they have to pay gas for every transaction, or you have to pay gas for every transaction. And this will not be cheap and will be a bit annoying. Yeah, so it's better to balance between tokenization and just backend. Why do you believe blockchain should be invisible to the player, and how can that be implemented technically? Mm, yeah, so one thing I stressed about the blockchain, it's actually in games. It's not something that will push your project. Like your game, your product, it has to be interesting and it has to compete with Web2 games for it to play like long term. And um, to achieve this, you should onboard different players. You should onboard Web2 and Web3 players. And you can't like if you play Web2 games on your phone, like casual games, the onboarding is just like 5 seconds, and you're in the game, you're playing, you already know what to do, and you have to deliver similar experience to the Web3 games. That's what I mean by making blockchain invisible. And then once the player is kind of engaged and maybe he follows your community, then he can discover these Web3 features and learn them. So you don't throw everything at the face because most players they'll just leave if you do that. How do you deal with centralization risks in Solana, and does that contradict Web3's decentralization philosophy? Um, so you have to ignore the centralization risks. If you find Solana suitable for your project, then you just think that it's not gonna like nobody is gonna get. I think it's like 50% of the token, and just break the system. And in general, people don't want to do that because you invest in the blockchain, you buy token, you spend your time doing this, and then if you get more than 50% of the token, you can just break it. But if you break it, you'll lose like everything you have. Yeah, so um, I mean, this is so unlikely to happen that maybe you shouldn't even bother about it, and the risk is too small. Yeah, just neglect it. Think that's all the questions we had. Okay, one last question. Uh, don't launch your token before gameplay has traction. So what I mean by that is again, it should be game first, token second. So you're making a product that's interesting, and you check like some initial metrics, maybe 2 or 3 months into development, like your core gameplay. And if players they don't stick around, they just play it one time and leave, then then if you move it to blockchain, it's not gonna save the project. It's all about the core, and the blockchain is just like something on top. So yeah, it's better to analyze like day one, day three, day seven retention, the gameplay time, and some other metrics that you find suitable before like thinking of the token. Can you recommend any courses to better understand the topic? Okay, topics. Um, I can't really recommend the topics. I think I learned a lot of it from going to hackathons, and just meeting the people and building something really small. And this way you learn and at the same time you implement everything. So just have a look at um, different chains, hackathon in your area, and yeah, this way you'll in like 2 or 3 days you'll get a lot of information and hands-on experience. Um, I think it's the best way. Um, Also, yeah, maybe join some Telegram channels, but I can't recommend anything. And maybe you can join the Ton on Telegram, Ton ecosystem, and also they have some online meetings where different builders present their projects, and you can join those meetings. Yeah, something like that. How effective are Telegram tools like for promoting Web3 games? Telegram tools are very effective. They used to be very effective. Right now, I don't deal with them that much. So by uh, just 1 second. Yeah, so 1 year ago, just by listing on the App Center, you could get 15,000 active players, and by just talking to Ton and having your project listed on their channel, you get 15,000 more active players. And from there, you just collab with other projects and you just exchange the players. So it's a bit different now. It's harder because many players they left Telegram right now. But Uh, yeah, this way it's almost free, and you get the initial player base, and you go on from there. Just um, it's a good starting point. Okay, I think that's all of the questions. Thank you very much for your time and questions, and
Thank you, team, for the lecture. We will be glad to see you again in the Terracon Valley.
thank you, Arena. Have a good day.
Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye bye.